Good day and welcome back to another DBZ Dokkan video. In this video, we are going to be taking a look essentially at the performance of Int LL Broly in the Cell Max event. Now, Int LL Broly is a really good unit. He provides his team pretty much every bit of utility it didn't have. He brings a domain effect, he brings a revive skill, he brings support for the first 4 turns, he brings support after reviving, and he brings stunning, and he brings healing. So he brings the full bag of utility, and I think he's just about the right unit, the absolute right unit for this team. Now, of course, I think to look at everything in a nutshell, I think one thing that I will say, overall, I think in terms of raw numbers, Broly probably looks the least impressive in terms of raw numerical output. But I think overall, he's probably, I think in the long run, a unit that's going to appreciate a lot better. I think a lot of the time people can get really caught up with, how does this work? How does that work? Attack stats, defense stats, etc. But I think you'll find that for the most part, Broly will be really good. So yeah, we'll take a look at them in Cell Max. Obviously, guys, in terms of Cell Max, I think it's very important to understand a couple things. So firstly, obviously Cell Max is a bit of a strange fight where the boss kind of scales upwards, but he also gains a whole bunch of ways to debuff. Broly, personally speaking, is more than fine at any given stage of this event. Defensively, offensively, he's more than fine. Brings a lot of great utility. One kind of negative, I guess, which you do have to obviously admit, is that when he activates his domain, buffs up Cell Max as well, which is one of the downsides of being an extreme team that goes into an extreme event now with how domains work. It's not necessarily like a deal breaker, but it is something that you have to kind of accept with Broly. You have to always kind of understand that this is definitely a possibility with Broly. And yeah, I would say it's not something you can ignore. It's also not a deal breaker just due to basically how strong he is. Now, to circumvent this, you could not use the domain effect. But one thing you'll have to understand is that if you do not use the domain effect, then essentially what's going to happen is you're going to end up in a situation where you are kind of basically you don't have to use the domain effect, but you should, because the domain effect ultimately at the end of the day does intrinsically help because it activates a lot of his other conditions, his attacks, effects against all type, his guard, etc. So the trade-off is generally I find it doesn't really matter because you're getting buffed by 15% and the boss is getting buffed by 15%. It tends to trail out, but generally speaking, you can suffer a bit, especially if you're relying on that 15% to make some units relevant in the event. But that's one of those things, unfortunately. We don't always get to, have situations we prefer. But yeah, overall, I'd say Broly's really solid. I think he's great. I think his damage that he can do is decent. I think the only shame is that he doesn't have additionals built into his passive. I think that's a real shame. You can counteract that a little bit with his, in potential system, but it still doesn't really make up for it a lot. Still, obviously, not a huge deal breaker, but it is something that you have to consider. All in all, I find Broly to be very good. I really like everything he brings to the table. I really just like Broly in general. So for me, really, there's not too much that I'm against, personally speaking. I think as well the revive is something that's super underrated right now, because right now planetary destruction or movie bosses or uncontrollable power, or however you want to put it, is very strong. So you don't tend to need the revive. But when you do use the revive, and when content gets to the point where it's going to be really tough for this team, Revives are very, very powerful, and they also help to cover up for turns where you don't want to use an item, or you want to delay on a tactic or something. Like, they're very, very useful. And I think like they're more evident when a team starts to lag a little bit behind, or when you have like a great example is the Majin Buu team or the Majin Power team. It's a great team. It's a very, very powerful category, but having double int Buu, having that revive, having that healing, is more evident now than it was when he first released. When he first released, it was like, okay, he's good, he's very strong defensively, yeah, but also, yeah, like he gets caught out a little bit, and like I'd rather just have the damage and the raw numbers. But then, you know, that doesn't really suit the case, because then you don't get the revive, you don't proc anything, and you tend to suffer overall. So it's a bit of a interesting situation, and I think Broly's the same. Like, I think once you get the revives, once you get all of that going, I think Broly looks a lot better, and you see his utility. But for me overall, I think Broly's great. I think he's really, really fun to use, and yeah, ultimately I just had a good time. So that's really it from me. Honestly, not too much more to say. I think overall he's a great choice for any hard event, but I think, you know, based on this one, he's really, really, really good. So yeah, that's basically it from me. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like. It's always appreciated. And as always, I will see you guys in the next one. So until then, take care, stay safe, and bye.